Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online series 9 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a really interesting team with a bunch of Pokemon that we haven't used in a while, including Life Orb, Swords Dance Decidueye, Weakness Policy Solid Rock Rhyperior, Absorb Bulb Rotom-Heat with Nasty Plot, and then Classic Support Grimmsnarl and Tornadus with the Water Urshifu. So, the idea behind this team is that you have a lot of Pokemon that can set up, right? You've got the Weakness Policy on the Rhyperior, the Swords Dance on the Decidueye, the Nasty Plot on the Rotom. Grimmsnarl enables all of these Pokemon further by setting up screens and just makes that so that it's more difficult to knock them out. And then Tornadus, of course, can set up Tailwind. Now, know that Rhyperior is a pretty slow Pokemon, so even with Tailwind up, Rhyperior is often not going to be outspeeding things, but it's actually pretty useful against slower teams or teams that might be, you know, more Trick Room oriented, for example. Urshifu is also a strong Pokemon here, especially to actually self-activate Weakness Policy and Absorb Bulb on Rotom-Heat. Absorb Bulb is an item I've actually really never seen on Rotom-Heat. It's one that I haven't seen since like VGC 2012, honestly. So that's kind of what inspires the question of the day. I want to know what you think is currently an underused item. Absorb Bulb is definitely one of those, but I think like a bunch of the berries I think are really interesting. You know, we used to see like Custap Berry being used way back in the day, but you know, that's really kind of fallen off completely. And so those are just some answers to start. So yeah, this was sent in by a player called Angelo, aka Jowie. So thank you so much to him for the team. And yeah, there's a rental and a paste for it down in the description below. Feel free to try it out yourselves. Thank you so much as always for watching Road to Rank. If you enjoyed, please share your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm excited to just dive into the team. I think both Rhyperior and Decidueye are not Pokemon you see very frequently, but definitely can, they both definitely have a place in the metagame at the moment, especially because they're both pretty good into Regieleki specifically. Regieleki is so common on so many different teams right now, and it doesn't fare super well into Rhyperior, Rotom, or Decidueye. And so yeah, either way, let's get started. Alright, getting into our first game of the day. Let's see what we got. Garchomp, Weavile, that's super cool. Celesteela, Grimmsnarl, Porygon, and Coalossal. So, I mean, features 3 of the strongest like max options in the format right now, feels like, in Garchomp, Celesteela, and the Coalossal. So Weavile is pretty interesting. If you go with Weavile, like Rhyperior is actually really strong here. And we don't necessarily like need Tailwind for it, right? We can just go with Rhyperior. Something like Grimmsnarl Rhyperior feels pretty compelling to me. I like that a lot. Who do I want in the back? The other thing is that Urshifu is obviously really good into Coalossal as well. If I'm my opponent, I'm thinking maybe they play towards Celesteela instead. I'd love to bring Decidueye in this one, but it just doesn't make that much sense in my opinion. It's weak into Coalossal, Celesteela, Weavile doesn't really do much damage in return, so I think we're going to go with Urshifu and Rotom in the back. But yeah, I think, you know, Rhyperior is a Pokemon that was very good in the start of VGC 2020. You would often see it on Trick Room teams, like hard Trick Room teams, or, you know, paired with something like Dusclops, where you could go Bulldoze, activate the Weakness Policy, and just sweep. But it feels like, you know, players have kind of forgotten about it a little bit. Now, granted, one of the reasons is because there are more Intimidators in this format relative to, say, VGC 2020, especially with Pokemon like Incineroar and Landorus-T. But the cool thing is, yeah, Rhyperior is just super, super bulky, and when you add screens and Solid Rock to it, it can take, like, super effective attacks really well, and retaliate back, obviously, with a ton of damage once its Weakness Policy is activated. So, yeah, excited to just go with Grimmsnarl and Rhyperior here, and let's see how things shake up. And I'd say I'm really happy to see Weavile Coalossal as a lead here. Now, the tricky thing is how turn 1 plays out, because if you're my opponent, you're probably going to want to switch out that Coalossal into Celesteela, honestly. Unless this thing has max overgrowth, like, that's a slight possibility. I almost want to, like, gamble a little bit and not Dynamax with Rhyperior to bait the Celesteela switch in and just Rock Slide. What are the odds they have max overgrowth? Like, I should probably max Rhyperior still. You know what? I think we're gonna max Weavile at least to just guarantee the knockout onto that. Yeah, I like that. I'll go for Light Screen turn 1, max, and Rockfall into Weavile. Because even if you switch out here into Celesteela, I still get the knockout onto Weavile if you stay in. Oh, interesting. Okay. So they are gonna stay in here. I mean, I'm fine with this, because even if, like, you're going for Surf, one, you're just going to activate my Weakness Policy, so that's handy. I've got T-Wave on this thing, although it's not going to be that handy if they end up actually activating the Steam Engine and the Policy stuff. But they protect with Coalossal. Oh, that's actually really good for us. Okay, brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And I even get Light Screen up as well. Okay, great. So what are they going for here? Triple Axle, maybe? Just taunt. Okay. I'd say this is a really favorable outcome for turn 1 because I end up getting a KO. Weavile's going to faint from sand, and I get Light Screen up. Light Screen's really good into my opponent's team. Now, you could bring in Garchomp right now if you're my opponent. That's probably the correct bring, but I'd say this is a pretty solid start for us, despite us not using... I was going to try to make a pun there, but forget it. Okay, so... Now what? You bring in Garchomp or Celesteela, probably. I think those are the 2 Pokemon they should have remaining. So it's going to be Celesteela. This is, I think, a good sign for us, because if you're bringing Celesteela in now, you don't have a switch it into Max Quake. So Max Quaking Coalossal is very, very free. I'm just going to switch Grimmsnarl out into Rotom in this position. Really no reason not to, and just go for a Max Quake onto Coalossal. I could Max Flare Celesteela as well, actually. Actually, that's not a terrible play. But I think the tricky thing here is I don't know how my opponent can deal with the Rhyperior right now, especially with the without any Intimidates. Like they're probably gonna end up activating Weakness Policy. So yeah, like Coalossal is in a really awkward spot right now, and them protecting from him was great because now I have a free Max Quake, and them bringing Celesteela out is also great because now I know they have no switch in into Max Quake. So they're actually gonna withdraw Coalossal, which is fine by me. We have Urshifu in the back, so Urshifu is gonna be a pretty good late game answer into it. Now, Porygon 2 comes out here, so that's pretty interesting. Okay. They're going to max Celesteela. That's fine. I mean, honestly, I really, really want them to Steel Spike us, because if they end up activating Weakness Policy, it should be a done deal. It'd be pretty tough to come back from my opponent from that, because, yeah, like, the thing is, if this is Special Celesteela as well, we have the Sandstorm up, we have Light Screen up, and I'm going to get a Special Defense boost via Max Quake, and we have Solid Rock. So I'm not really worried about Celesteela's damage output. They are just going to go for Steel Spike. Targeting the Grimmsnarl slot, that's fine. That noticeably does give them a defense boost though, right? So that's a pretty good turn for my opponent. But the main thing about beating Celesteela is you really don't want it to snowball. Deny it any possible beast boost, because even a single beast boost allows Celesteela to become a significantly stronger offensive threat. So you really want to avoid that. Now this is a little bit scary. So really good Steel Spike into that slot. Porygon pressures with Trick Room. Celesteela can just Steel Spike again. Max Rockfall into Rotom is obviously a possibility. I honestly want to like overheat the Porygon and go for Max Quake onto it. Yeah, I'm down for that. Porygon, like, this covers for any possible play my opponent can make. And like I'm just gonna switch out Rotom later on anyway. Oh, that's really good damage into Porygon. And that's because that was a crit. Okay. Yeah, I was expecting Porygon to survive this turn, but, you know, it would be in a pretty tricky position, but now we might just actually get the knockout here. And yeah, look how good the Light Screen is here for us. Celesteela just really doesn't do that much. And they actually go for Eerie Impulse. Okay, perfect. So they were trying to cover for a Nasty Plot this turn. So even if we didn't get the crit, like, Porygon would be pretty low HP. The main thing is that they didn't Trick Room, right? So then I could just finish it off. Like, it probably would have very little HP, you know, around like 5-10%ish or so, I would think, after the turns. So then I can just go for like an Overheat for a KO. The main thing here that I was nervous about was Porygon clicking Recover just to kind of stall out a turn, but yeah, we are in very good shape right now. So Rhyperior is at +2 special defense. It has Light Screen up. I mean, Rhyperior is going to come back out for my opponent, but that's fine. One thing I want to do is potentially stall out my own Sandstorm as well, because then Urshifu obviously will have its Focus Sash intact. What's interesting here is, like, I should probably switch out Rotom, right? But the thing is, it's pretty safe to just go for a Protect here, because I don't want Celesteela to potentially pick up a knockout on anything this turn. We just want to deny it any potential boosts, right? So I think Protect and Earthquake here is honestly acceptable. The main thing that's good for us in dealing with Celesteela is that if it's not the Leftovers Leech Seed set, it's not going to have any recovery, basically. And most Celesteelas these days are Assault Vest running Meteor Beam. Okay, we're going to protect. They're not going to protect with the Coalossal, which is perfect. They Steel Spike into Rhyperior for a total of like 25%. Oh my goodness. Yeah, without like any 4x super effective damage from my opponent, this Rhyperior is just so strong. That activates Policy. This was just like a Rhyperior carry, honestly. And so, yeah, this Pokemon's kind of slept on in the metagame, honestly. Like, it feels like you know, super dominant just a couple of months ago. You know, granted that was in VGC 2020. And that just one-shots Coalossal. Beautiful. Turn 1 was just super good for us. And the other main thing is that my opponent didn't bring Garchomp into this matchup. Garchomp was probably their best answer into Rhyperior, but to be honest, I was confident in dealing with Garchomp because, like, we would actually probably win the trade-off where, like, Grimmsnarl could just set up Reflect, and then, you know, their Max Quake I'm not even sure would be a 2-hit KO into Rhyperior, whereas we would definitely 2-hit KO in return. So, yeah. Now we have a fully boosted Rhyperior. Celesteela's at +2 defense. Policy should be on the Coal. So I'm content to... In this position, actually, there's really no reason to switch Rotom out, to be honest. Like, it's fine to... I mean, we could do anything at this point in the game and win because we're so far ahead, but you always want to just think about, like, the best case. And, like, I don't want to switch out Rotom here because regular Celesteela should have no way of knocking out Rotom-Heat. Your best play would be to go for Meteor Beam. And they just Flash Cannon. Yeah, what I don't want to do is basically switch out Rotom and give my opponent the potential to come back. If they were to... I mean, we have such a big numbers advantage here. I don't think they actually ever have a chance of coming back. So, like, switching out Rotom here is probably fine. But there's no... I don't really see any reason to switch out here. Because, like I said, Celesteela's best damage into Rotom is typically Max Rockfall. But that comes from Meteor Beam. So, yeah, we even get a burn there, which is pretty lucky. So, definitely some decent RNG in this game. We managed to get a crit onto the Porygon and a burn on the Celesteela. I mean, the burn obviously didn't matter, but the crit could have helped out. Especially because if, like, Porygon hung on with a little bit of HP, I still obviously could have overheated the next turn, but I could potentially miss overheat. And maybe Porygon actually just survives an overheat because of the Eerie Impulse, and we're at -4 special attack. So that would definitely drastically change the outcome of the game as well. But, yeah. I still felt like we were in a pretty good position, mainly because of the Rhyperior. My opponent just had no damage for it, right? Their best bet was Celesteela with Flash Cannon, and that did 25% of damage to us. And so, like, the tough thing about dealing with Rhyperior is that you're going to eventually have to activate that Weakness Policy, typically, if you want to deal with it, and KO it quickly. But if you activate its policy, then obviously it can do a lot of damage in return. So, yeah, that was a really good game for Rhyperior, so I'm hoping that Rotom and Decidueye can come out in these next ones. Alright, next match here, and it is a pretty standard Sun team. Okay. So I feel like I really like Rotom, like Grimmsnarl or Rotom here, for example, as a lead. They don't have Fake Out either, which means I should be able to get at least one of my screens up, which is always pretty valuable. Grim Rotom... it's not a great day for Decidueye, is it? Unfortunately, yeah. Don't think I can really bring it out here. So I think it's going to be Grim, Rotom, Rhyperior, Urshifu. Ideally, we get Rotom to +3. Like, if I can set up screens, Nasty Plot, and then Self Aqua Jet to activate the Absorb Bulb, Rotom is actually really solid here. Tornadus is interesting. I mean, it gives us Tailwind, but I don't know. Like, I think Tailwind's valuable if we ensure we can sweep under Tailwind, but I don't think there's too much synergy here against my opponent's team in this game specifically if we set up Tailwind. I guess, like, Rotom's not bad, but it might still get... It still gets outsped by a decent amount. Well, not under Tailwind, but the problem with Tornadus is that it is just kind of often not the most useful Pokemon past turn 1, right? Landorus plus Regieleki. Okay. Man, what does Landorus do turn 1? Because I could get really greedy and Nasty Plot here. So the thing is, if you're my opponent, like, you could obviously max Rockfall. The safest play, actually, is to Reflect and then switch Rotom out into Rhyperior. My one fear in making this play is if they are Swords Dance Landorus. So, Life Orb and AV are also possible items. There's really no indication of what item they are here immediately to me. Lomberry SD is possible. Swords Dance is a little bit scary here. If they have it, so be it. I'm going to go for Reflect and switch out. And if they max Landorus turn 1, we're in really good shape, in my opinion. But if they Swords Dance, we're in really bad shape. So this could play out a lot of different ways right now. They're not maxing Landorus. Okay, that's bad. That's probably a Swords Dance coming out then. Okay, they're going to T-Bolt into Grim. Yep. Oh, okay, they just go Rock Slide. That's huge. The fact that it's just... I guess Rock Slide there makes sense because you're not, like, fearing too much damage that turn. I'm pretty lucky that we get a dodge on Grim, although we would have survived anyways. And I can Light Screen as well. Getting both screens up in this game is really good for us. Light Screen. think I'm content just going for a Light Screen max and then just Rockfall into Landorus. Well, the reason I'm contemplating not maxing is because I think Landorus actually might switch out here to reset Intimidate. So I actually kind of like Light Screen and just Rock Slide here, honestly. Kind of like how they chose not to max on turn 1. And if they max, we'll have Reflect Up, so I think we would survive a max Quake anyway. Okay, interesting. They protect, but they don't max Landorus, which makes me think they're going for... Well, Swords Dance here would be really interesting if they went for it this turn. No, they just Earthquake. Oh, even better. They just activate Policy for us now. Like, this is, once again, the beauty of Rhyperior, right? The way they're playing makes me think that they have, that they have Urshifu in the back, because otherwise you wouldn't be so willing to just, activate my Weakness Policy, right? I actually kind of wish their Rock Slide hit last turn, because if it hit, we'd get a free switch in, or, yeah, we'd get a free switch in, to replace the Grimmsnarl. I'm jumbling up all my words, it's been a long day. Okay, I could see EQ coming out again. I don't mind switching out into Rotom here. It's just like, I should probably max Rhyperior here, right? Okay, if it's water, let's assume their last one's water Urshifu. Yeah, I think it's probably, we should just... I also have to respect Venusaur, though, don't I? You know what? For that reason, I'm actually not going to max Rhyperior here. I know it seems slightly questionable, but the thing is, okay, they switch out Regieleki. That's fine by me. They bring out Porygon. Okay, that's also great to see. I like to see that. What would be really interesting here is if they just made the call to Dynamax the Landorus. I don't even know if that KOs Rhyperior, Reflect, and Solid Rock, honestly. The main thing here that's good for us is that it wasn't Swords Dance Landorus. This game would have been a lot worse if they were. Wow, they make the call to max the Landorus. Okay. The thing is, I don't even, like, I'm not that concerned about that, because even if you manage to pick up the knockout onto Rhyperior, I have Urshifu in the back, so I can just bring out Urshifu and just Surging Strikes the Landorus for a KO and Nasty Plot Rotom. Rotom is incredible against my opponent's endgame if they commit the Dynamax to Landorus, so I don't mind this too much. And they're just gonna Max Quake. Yep, that's fine. So let's see if Rhyperior is bulky enough to survive. Wow, this Pokemon... Oh my goodness. It even tanks it. And this is exactly why I didn't want to Dynamax Rhyperior either, right? Because if I maxed it there, I take so much damage, and it just doesn't really feel worth it to me at that point in the game. So now what do I want to do? I think the play I like to make here is protect the Rotom and then switch Rhyperior out into Grimmsnarl. In doing so, I sacrifice Grimmsnarl to get a free switch in into Urshifu. Once Urshifu's out on the field, well, then I can go for the Aqua Jet onto the Landorus and then Nasty Plot with Rotom. I don't want to take a Max Rockfall right now, and I just want the guaranteed free switch in into the Urshifu, while also conserving Rhyperior. Yep, so there's Rockfall. Okay, goes into Rotom. Now, what's interesting here is if you're the Porygon, you could actually choose to Trick Room. That'd be pretty compelling. So let's see what they opt for. Alright, perfect. They Ice Beam. Yep, okay, that is what I wanted to see this turn, so that's good. So I get the free switch in now. I still have multiple turns of screen to work with. Regular Rhyperior was fantastic for us in this game, so shoutouts to it. And the cool thing is, yeah, maybe I can go for the Self Aqua Jet play in this game, too. So let's bring out Urshifu. I think we just Aqua Jet into Landorus. I guess Surging Strikes is a little bit of a better... I mean, Landorus shouldn't outspeed us, right? It doesn't have any speed boosts, and we are max speed Urshifu. Let me just double check that. Yeah. So I think it's pretty safe to go for Nasty Plot here and Surging Strikes. The Surging Strikes just covers and does more damage should Porygon have Ally Switch here. Yep, okay, perfect. And the main thing here is that we have the Dynamax to play towards, right? That's why I was aggressive in not Dynamaxing with my Rhyperior, because I wanted to get my opponent to commit to one of their Dynamax options. I guess what's scary here is if they have Water Urshifu as their last option, because that actually then just still does so much damage into Rotom, and I'm not sure I can beat that super easily. They are Eerie Impulse. Okay, that's also not good. I mean, it's still fine, because, like, my opponent's not doing any damage, and I still have my Dynamax to play towards, whereas they don't, but obviously that makes things like a little bit trickier for us. Their Porygon falls under 50%. We've seen Ice Beam, Eerie Impulse. Trick Room Recover is my guess as their moveset, which would actually be really interesting because then that means you have no way to actually hit the Urshifu. This turn is very interesting. Like, do you protect the Regieleki expecting Urshifu to protect? What is my opponent's last one going to be? Venusaur or Torkoal? It's one of the two, right? Or Urshifu, actually. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't mention Urshifu there. Kind of expect Regieleki to protect in this position. I think I'm down to Nasty Plot and protect this turn. If they protect Surging... Like, you have to protect Eerie Impulse. Oh, they're not protecting Regieleki, okay. I guess Regieleki could have Eerie Impulse as well. That's pretty interesting. They just go for Electro Web. That's fine. Yeah, I think... Porygon probably just keeps clicking Eerie Impulse. That's the problem, right? Yeah. This is definitely kind of awkward right now. I'm honestly thinking about maxing this Urshifu. Seems wild against an Regieleki, but... Like, I think I want to switch out... That last turn was kind of bad on my end. I feel like I had better plays to make. I want to switch out into Rhyperior here. Max. And go for Rapid Flow. Yeah, we have Light Screen up, so I think I'm willing to make this play, especially because they went for Electro Web last turn, but there's a lot that could go wrong here. The Rotom Max setup didn't end up working out as well as I would have liked, and in the end, now I'm thinking maybe I should have just died to Max Rhyperior anyway. But it's hard to say. Eerie Impulse is a really good move, though, like, and I think it's really strong in the format right now, whether it be on Regieleki, Porygon, you know, so many different good Pokemon can run it. Okay. So I'm going to end up maxing Urshifu here, just because I think it's our best bet right now. Perfect, the Electro Web. Okay. I'm just happy to see Electro Web over something like Thunderbolt, because now Urshifu should definitely survive. Perfect. Okay. Hoping our max move into Sandstorm is enough to pick up the knockout here. Okay, brilliant. That should be good. And they go for another Eerie Impulse. Okay, good. That played out exactly how I was hoping for it to. A little bit scary, but I figured with the Light Screen up, even if they went T-Bolt into Urshifu, we'd survive the turn, and the main thing here is getting the knockout onto the Regieleki, right? Okay, great. Now what? Now what? Well, we'll see what their last one is. We still outspeed the Porygon. There's his Urshifu as well. Okay, good. Close combat shouldn't KO us. Only one turn of Reflect left, though, and we're at -1 speed. They are Dark Urshifu. Okay, so what do I do? Yeah, this is still definitely very winnable for my opponent. Like, I think I want to Rock Slide here into knuckling the Porygon slot. Because we want to knock out the Porygon, otherwise it just sustains for too long. Perfect, okay, they close combat Urshifu. I think that should win us the game. I think they needed to knock out Rhyperior because now my Urshifu is just going to knuckle the Porygon. I guess, like, Porygon might survive this. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Gets the KO. Yeah, great. Yeah, because I think if my opponent targeted Rhyperior there, you immediately force it at least to be a 2v1, whereas now it's a 3v1, and it's pretty tough for Urshifu to cover for all three options. The other cool thing is I get an attack boost onto Rhyperior as well. I think Fire Punch was a better play here over Rock Slide, though. Oh, that's so much damage onto Urshifu with the attack boost. Nice. Okay, Sandstorm subsides. Now Reflect is off, but should just be game over. Fire Punch into... Yeah, I can just Fire Punch here and go for Max Knuckle. I think Fire Punch should KO, but even if not, we have Rotom in the back. Urshifu cannot win a 3v1 right now, because you have to basically take at least 2 attacks, right? You can't knock out, 3 Pokemon quickly enough. So, they're going to Wicked Blow here into the Urshifu, actually. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, because that's going to do less than close combat even with the crit. And we didn't have Reflect up, so... It felt like maybe if they were to have gone for Wicked Blow, it should have been last turn rather than this turn. But yeah, we take it. Okay, so this was an interesting game about playing a little bit flexible. Rhyperior once again was really solid. So yeah, I have to say I am pretty pleased about Rhyperior. It definitely has been able to bait out a lot of damage, and we've been able to get the policy activations, and then it's able to, you know, just put on a lot of pressure. So yeah, definitely happy about its performance thus far. But let's look for one last match of the day. All right. Oh boy. Palossand Accelgor. Okay, hello. Last time I went up against this combo, I got really lucky and ended up critting Palossand. Oh man. Do I Thunder Wave? Decidueye is just so speedy, right? Oh, but I've got Urshifu. Okay. I think I'm going to go Grim Urshifu, pressuring Fake Out T-Wave. They're probably going to bring Gastrodon. I think this actually could be a really good game for Decidueye, which is cool. And I think I'll bring Rhyperior as the last one. This is a really sick team for my opponent, though. I'm very excited to see how it plays out. So, honestly, I'm rooting for them here. I always love going up against cool teams, and if there's any time to lose, it would be to a really cool team like this. So, yeah. But obviously, I want to win, so let's try to get the win on the board. Either way, yeah, this is definitely one of the more interesting teams we've run into on Road to Ranked. Although, honestly, I feel like the meta has developed a fair amount, and you know, granted, there are a lot of like standard teams featuring Pokemon, you know, just like classics, right? But yeah, there are a lot of cool stuff, cool things running around as well. Okay, turn 1 is super interesting because it's like, do you switch in Gastrodon? Because you should be worried about Fake Out, right? Even if Gastro comes in, though, Palossand's not picking up a one-hit KO, so I'm down to just Thunder Wave the Accelgor, honestly, and Surging Strikes here. Yeah. If they switch in Gastrodon, like, okay, then your Palossand doesn't have its Weakness Policy activated. I guess the question is, where do we go from there? Then we can bring up Decidueye, and then Decidueye becomes a really solid option. Okay, they are going to go for the switch. I really thought about going like Spirit Break Close Combat there into Accelgor, but the thing is, I figured like I'd rather just cover for the worst case scenario here, because yes, the Palossand commits a Dynamax now, and it's like, what do you actually really do? Without Weakness Policy activated on this thing, our Accelgor is actually looking, not our Accelgor, sorry, our Decidueye is looking very nice. So Palossand without like the ability and without Weakness Policy activated doesn't scare me nearly as much. So this is a really good turn 1 by my opponent, but I still don't even mind it that much, because the main thing here is that we're just we're denying Palossand's setup, and if we can deny Palossand's setup, that puts us in a better position, right? Because now I can just Light Screen this next turn. They're gonna go Phantasm onto Urshifu. Yep, that's fine. Obviously Gastrodon can activate Weakness Policy, so that's like a little bit scary. I don't think Close Combat Spirit Breaks and knocks out Gastrodon, but I'm fine with Palossand's Policy going off if it means I get a Light Screen up. Like, the play I want to go for here is just Light Screen and Protect, I think. Because if you end up spending all 3 turns of your Dynamax just to knock out Urshifu, Decidueye should come out and just one-shot everything on my opponent's team. Yeah. You'd even consider switching out Urshifu on my last turn. So, this is a good example of risk versus reward, because imagine if I didn't go for Thunder Wave and I just went for the Close Combat Spirit Break onto a Accelgor turn 1. Like, if my opponent just activates Weakness Policy and gets the Palossand set up, this game becomes a lot tougher, where at least, like, how I play turn 1 forces them to, you know, switch out. And they're not putting on that much offensive pressure right now. Their Gastrodon's actually going to be slower than the Palossand, which is really good for us, because it means now, even if you activate the Weakness Policy, you're kind of 1 turn or 2 behind, right? So, yeah, I really like our position right now, especially with the Decidueye still waiting in the back. And they just recover even better. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So once again, this is why I wanted to force it out on turn 1. Okay, now what? How good's Rhyperior in this endgame for us? It's decent. Nah, it's not amazing, though. I think I'm down to just Spirit... Well, Gastrodon has revealed Recover. Whatever, I'm fine if it goes for Recovery here. I think I'm content to just Spirit Break and Close Combat into it. Maybe that's enough to... No, I don't think Gastrodon faints from this. It's a pretty bulky Pokemon. It's really good damage from Close Combat. I think it'll hang on with like 10-15% or so. Either way, you know, we drop its Special Attack. That's also pretty valuable for us, so definitely take those. Our good streak of RNG continues as we manage to actually crit the Gastrodon. I mean, like, Honestly, I wouldn't have minded Gastrodon staying on the field, because the thing is, like, Gastrodon being on the field benefits us in the sense that it just is so weak. And now the thing is, my opponent gets a free switch into the Accelgor. So I don't actually really love that, but that's okay. The free switching is actually really bad. That was like the worst time to get a crit. Okay, I really don't love that. It's fine though. I think I could just go into Decidueye. We still have Light Screen set up, and Palossand outside of Dynamax is not really that scary. So like, yeah, you can get your Palossand boosted up, but right, it's not that bad. Especially because I'm faster than the Palossand. So I think here I'm down to just Spirit Break the Palossand. Oh, actually, I really don't know. Like, this, this actually just got really scary. I actually feel like I have to KO Accelgor here. Alright, I'm just going to Spirit Break, Max, and just Phantasm. And the nice thing is that Phantasm gets a defense drop on Palossand, right? So, like, that helps in the end game. But, yeah, that was actually, like, not a good time to get a crit. Because if we don't get a crit, then I just get the free switch into Decidueye, and then with Decidueye out, I can just pressure Palossand with the Max Phantasm while clicking Spirit Break onto the Gastrodon slot. The main thing here is putting on pressure on Palossand before Accelgor hits the field, and unfortunately for us, Accelgor actually managed to hit the field and is now in a position to boost up the Palossand, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going to go for the Water Shuriken and get the defense boosts. There's the Weakness Policy. I don't know, maybe I should have just targeted Palossand this turn. Yeah, that was probably, I don't know. The thing is, like, with Light Screen up, I'm not that scared. I just wanted to eliminate Accelgor just to remove any potential shenanigans he can go for after this turn. Yeah. Shadow Ball's gonna hurt, but it's not gonna KO us. That's the main thing. I also didn't want to target Palossand in case they went for its recovery move here. So, yeah. And the thing is, by going for Phantasm on the partners, I always guarantee a defense drop, right? But they're just going to offer Shadow Ball here. And it's not enough for a 2-hit KO onto Decidueye. Nice. So, this is what I mean, right? Palossand's not really that scary if you play around its Dynamax and its Weakness Policy. However, my opponent has Porygon too here. That does not bode well for us. I mean, so now the question is the moveset on this Palossand. Look at those stat boosts. Self Thunder Wave is kind of a cool play we can make in this game. I think I'm just going to go for Spirit Break, and do I want to Overgrowth or Phantasm here? I think Phantasm is better just for the long-term defense drops because we have Rhyperior in the end game as well. Oh, it was Overgrowth to cover for Ally Switch. Oh, I didn't think about Ally Switch. Yeah. Oh, well done. Well done, well done, well done, well done. That's actually so bad that I missed that. Okay. Wow. That was, yeah. Ally Switch is one of those tricky moves because you just like always either forget about it or you don't want to overthink it and then try to cover for it. But that was an example where it was actually fine to cover for it and just go for Overgrowth. Well done, well done. Okay. I'm gonna Spirit Break and Overgrowth the Porygon slot now then. Okay, they protect. That's good at least. Oh, yeah, that Ally Switch might save them this game. I don't know. My question is how fast my opponent is here as well. And, yeah, Decidueye is, like, okay, but unfortunately, I kind of needed to get a Swords Dance boost off with it, and maybe I could have greeted, but I was nervous about just getting one shot. Okay. Oh, they actually just Ice Beam. Okay. That's actually a really big... Oh. Okay. Well, it's still not over. That's a really bad freeze, though. But we can thaw out, obviously. 20% chance. Because if we didn't get frozen there, Leaf Blade onto Porygon was a guaranteed knockout. So, yeah. So this is kind of a funny game where the critical hit worked against us, and then I didn't cover for Ally Switch. If I had just Overgrowth previously, we would have set up Terrain one turn earlier. We would have gotten guaranteed damage off, so that was just a pretty big misplay on my end, but it happens. I'm still just going to Leaf Blade Porygon here and Spirit Break it. If we thaw out, I think we're still in okay shape. Alright, they go for Ally Switch, that's fine. I mean, they're hoping for me to obviously stay frozen here, and we do stay frozen, unfortunately. Okay. So we got Spirit Break off. This is going to be a really interesting endgame, because Palossand doesn't do that much damage to us. But it can recover. The thing is, you're going to probably Earth Power eventually to activate that Weakness Policy. So, unfortunate freeze. I actually think we had this game without the freeze, because we would have guaranteed the knockout on a Porygon, and then it would be a 2v1. That's pretty easy to play out. We can just keep Spirit Breaking Palossand, and yeah. But I like, didn't play this game perfectly, right? So, in the end, there was certainly some room for improvement. Okay. I think I'm going to go T-Wave here onto the Porygon and Rock Slide. Now, the thing is, maybe they Ally Switch, but I could see them going for Trick Room in this position. If we get Paraflinch, like, that's obviously really good for us. Okay, they Protect, so that's good to see. Shouldn't be Ally Switch, then. Yeah. Bummer of a freeze, but I could have played better in this game. And maybe I shouldn't have... Like, I could have actually prevented the crit on Gastrodon by just Spirit Breaking the Palossand that turn instead. So I actually think that would have been a better play as well. Quite bulky on the Porygon. We do get the flinch, though, which is nice. Okay, nice. So, yeah, I think this is still winnable because of that turn. Now I can Spirit Break Rock Slide the Porygon slot. That's exactly what I'm going to go for here. If you Ally Switch, that's fine. I don't really think you can afford to right now. I think you just go for Earth. But the thing is, you activate Weakness Policy. So then the interesting thing is, do we win the long-term endgame against the Palossand? Because it still obviously has the defense boosts, and that's pretty scary. You could also choose to just not activate my Weakness Policy by going for Shadow Ball instead, which I think would be a very smart play. And if Palossand has Recovery here, actually it probably still favors Palossand, to be honest. And they do correctly go for Shadow Ball, so nicely done. Well done, well done, well done. Not that much damage in a Rhyperior. Okay. Oh man, this is going to be a doozy of an endgame. Light Screen wears off. How many turns of Grassy Trainer left? 2. I'm at -2 defense. This is at +3 defense, +1 special attack. I mean, here I think I'm going to Spirit Break the Palossand and Protect, but here's the problem. This Palossand should have Recovery with Shore Up. So I don't love that. I definitely don't love that. That's why I needed, like, even just a single Leaf Blade or Spirit Shackle onto it would have been super good for us. But like I said, there were multiple opportunities for me to have played better in this game, and I shouldn't have doubled up onto the Gastrodon. It would have been smarter to Spirit Break the Palossand that turn. That was like a game-defining play, right? Now, I also could have like aggressively read turn 1, but I don't mind not making that prediction right away. Timer is also actually a really big consideration right now, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Because I think winning off us, like the timer win condition is more viable for us than it is for my opponent. Let's see. So this is at neutral now. It's pretty easy for me to just set up a light screen. And I think I don't mind just Rock Sliding because it gives us a chance to flint. Fire Punch can burn. I don't want to Earthquake until... I actually just don't want to Earthquake at all right now. Until at least they would activate Weakness Policy. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's why I Switch Porygon. It can be a really, really strong set. Okay, we get Light Screen. Here's Fire Punch. It's really not any much damage, but we do get the burn. Okay. The burn's actually a pretty big deal because this puts them on a timer now. 185 down to 142. The other thing is, like, PP is actually a really big consideration on the Palossand as well, right? So I'm just going to Spirit Break the Palossand here and Protect with the Rhyperior. So, this has definitely been in quite the game of RNG, with both of us getting pretty lucky. Yeah, I really should have just Spirit Break the Palossand earlier in the mid-game. That was a big mistake for me to make. Alright, nice read. They read into the Protect there. They're going to go for Scorching Sands on the Grimmsnarl, but it doesn't really do that much. Okay. Oh, things are lagging a little bit. Alright. Well, fortunately for us, this is the last game of the day. Yeah, I'm just gonna Spirit Break and Fire Punch here. Because the thing is now, Palossand does no damage, so I'm gonna win off timer. Just because they're gonna keep healing up, so they basically need a. I think their win condition right now is a critical hit Earth Power eventually onto Rhyperior. And they actually just go for Scorching. Okay, so they're going for the crit this turn, but they don't get it. Okay, nice. And now that activates our Weakness Policy. Oh, but they get the burn. Okay. Okay. Nice. Well, that makes this substantially more interesting. Now, I think this turn they're going to go for Recovery. I think we can Rock Slide here, because if we get a flinch, they just take so much more damage. And then I don't think Spirit Break EQ would pick up the KO. Alright, that burn yeah, saves them. But we were also lucky to get a Fire Punch burn on the Palossand, so I certainly can't complain, right? But honestly, I think at this point, timer is looking like the main win condition because of that burn. Without the burn, I think we could have just played this out and just won without timer. I think we still can win without timer. That's actually pretty good damage. I think if we flinch here, we win the game, because I can just Spirit Break EQ next turn. Let's see. Palossand. We do manage to get the flinch. Okay. Yeah, I think if I'm assuming Palossand has recovery here. I'm just gonna Spirit Break and EQ now. Even if I crit EQ, like even if they protect and I crit EQ onto Grimmsnarl, yeah, we would still end up winning. So, okay. I think if we wanted to guarantee this win in the end, I actually think the way to play it out is just to go for the timer win condition, because they can't do enough damage quickly enough. So, yeah. But because we got that flinch, it essentially just sealed us the win instantly. So that was not the cleanest of victories. Like I mentioned, like this was a really interesting example of when you want to not target your opponent intentionally, because you picking up a KO actually works against you. I didn't even think about that super hard until it was a little bit too late. Yeah, so they did have Shore Up. Surely they were going for Shore Up the turn we got the flinch. So that's why I went for Rock Slide, because like if we get the flinch, we just insta-win, right? But even if we don't, it's pretty tough for my opponent to, I think, beat the timer in that endgame, because they're just not doing enough damage, and you essentially would have to knock out Rhyperior with like 4 minutes. I think like we were really close to reaching the 3-minute timer mark. AV Charizard, Iapapa, Snorlax, Focus Sash Accelgor, yeah. Eviolite P2, and then Mystic Water Gastrodon. That's pretty interesting. Like, I don't know, turn 1, if I just went Spirit Break Close Combat. No, I really like how I played against the Gastrodon. It's just the third turn where I crit it. I should have just Spirit Break Palossand to prevent any potential crits. Because then we would have been in such good shape, right? Then I just bring in the Decidueye. And then what do you really do from there? We're in a much better position. But yeah, I should have covered for Ally Switch. I also think my opponent had the opportunity to set up Trick Room instead of Ice Beaming the Decidueye. And if they set up Trick Room, I think like the end game would have favored them a little bit more. But yeah, that was a really, really wild match and a really fun set of games. So yeah, that is going to be it for this one. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Rhyperior was really impressive today. So yeah, this Pokemon is making a comeback, and you can certainly see why. So thanks once again to the original creator. Details for the team are in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoy. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.